Hi guys, I'm Shmi. Hello and welcome back to the channel where this is an absolute first. I've never previously shared anything like it. Welcome to the global car collection where the clue is very much in the name. Now, I've visited private collections spread across multiple different garages, different warehouses, different physical locations, even different states in the USA, but never before have I visited a collection across not only just different countries, but different continents. This is the Gulf part of the global car collection in the Middle East, but we're also going to be visiting today the Swiss part of the collection, which you might have caught a glimpse of recently when I was test driving a BMW 1M with some of the cars in the background. But we're talking a collection with everything from the limited edition Ferraris through the American muscle cars, the European cars, the Porsches, the BMWs, the Mercedes, the British cars, the classic Aston Martins. We've got the Lamborghinis, we've got the American supercars with the Ford GTs and with the Corvettes. There's a lot to take in, and it's never previously been seen. Let's explore the global car collection. The diversity of this collection is amazing. I mean, we have an Abarth parked right alongside a Ferrari 812 Competizione, although this is not just any Abarth, as I shall explain shortly. We also have the 1980s Aston Martin Vantage X-Packs up top and plenty more to take in. But I want to also show you something in a little bit more detail later on, for which I have the key in my pocket. So once we've returned from the Swiss part of the collection, stay tuned for that. A little bit surreal to say that we're sharing cars today from multiple continents. But let's beeline over here to the Ford GTs. Yes, I'm a little bit biased as an owner of one of these, this being the Carbon Series new GT with the grey paintwork, the orange stripe over the exposed carbon weave, and sitting atop a branded carpet with the chassis number. I'm a little bit jealous of that. Alongside it, we have the complete delivery mileage, red with white stripe example GT. Then we have the Hefner upgraded car over this way with over 800 horsepower. At the back, you can see at the top of the lifts, we've got the Alpinas, some of the BMWs. We've got the Z8 with the Alpina wheels. We've then got the Alpina B12 8 Series. Next is the B6, and finally the 3.3 Li. If we come through though, to squeeze back here, we have some of the Corvettes, and I say some because there are even more over towards the other side. We've got the C6 ZR1. We've got the C4 ZR1, or ZR1 if you're from the US. We then have another C4 just here before we get to the C3 Anniversary Limited Edition. Of course, many of these cars are unique specifications, limited edition cars, rare cars, all part of this very, very, very varied collection. And I mean, we've just gone from an 812 Competizione to an Escalade V, to a G500 or G550 4x4 squared, to a trio of the Myers-Manx buggies. We then have two Defenders. Come and have a look, actually. This is a Defender 90. Well, they're both Defender 90s, but this one, and they're kind of final editions, is actually a pickup. We have the pickup flatbed in the short wheelbase Defender, which is really quite fun, plus the super glittery Myers-Manx down there. And then if you turn the camera around, we have an Aventador SVJ Roadster, a Diablo VT, and a Lamborghini Urus, all in the bright red. A bit of a theme going on that you'll spot between the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and the Porsches. But these cars, all immaculate. The SVJ Roadster, one of only 800. If we come through, we'll come back to the Ferrari shortly. This being a private garage, has a wonderful seating area, pool table, different areas to sit, memorabilia on the walls, signed race gear, for example. But we come to more American cars, and I've been learning so much as we've been going. Down at the bottom here, we have the pair of ZR1s of the C7, the last and most powerful version of the last iteration of the front-engined Corvette. The two here, one being a coupe, one being a convertible, are both manual gearbox equivalents. A lot of fun to drive. Up top, we've got the Viper GTS alongside the Demon. Now, I had never previously seen some of the things that come with the Demon, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, but obviously that was Dodge making a car that is the ultimate for the drag strip. We have a Hellcat right next to that up top, and also an Acura NSX or a Honda NSX over in Europe. Down below, we have another Corvette alongside a Camaro. Two most famous, I suppose, Chevy cars, before we get to a Resto Mod GT500. Next to that, we have actually a trio run of Pontiac Firebird Transams with the Judge in the middle. We'll come to that in a second. Up top is the 300 ZX or ZX twin turbo, then a trio further of different iteration 300 ZXs. But one thing I've discovered about the twin turbo here is those headlights are actually the same headlights that you get on the Diablo over there. It's the exact same headlamp unit, just with a small twist on that, which I'll go and show you in a second because that's kind of fun. If we come this way though, the Judge, check this out. Check out what you have on the Judge up here. This slightly peculiar thing is an external rev counter. The driver sees that over the dashboard, as you do. I hadn't really noticed that before. We've then got the, I think, most traditional Firebird livery. Over here, up top, we've got a pair of 280 ZXs. We've then got the Stutz Blackhawk, which was the ultimate premium luxury American car of its time. Elvis Presley owned one. I think they only made about 500 or 600 of them in total. And then we've got the Cadillac Brougham, again, another super luxury American vehicle as well. Now, we do have all the Aston Martins and Mercedes here, but I should quickly point out, before we go too far past them, the 355 GTS, the 512 TR, the GTC4 Lusso, and the 812 Superfast. A line of lovely cars. Before we come back over this side, and starting up top, the Aston Martin Lagonda, that distinct wedge that they had of that car. Down below, lots of lovely Mercs. We've got a 450 SEL 6.9. We've got a 560 SL. Up top, this is a Vanquish S that's been back to the Aston Martin works location in England for a manual conversion. They always had the flappy paddle gearbox, which was never particularly acclaimed. This is super special. If you know the 90s Vantages, this is a V600 Le Mans, of which they only made 40 in 1999 to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the win with the DBR1 back in 1959. Pretty cool thing to have, one of only 40 in the world, 600 horsepower, twin supercharged Vantage. Anyway, we've then got the 560 SEL. This is actually the SL 500. Looks like an SL60. Up top, we have a pair of the V550 Vantages, again of the 90s derivative, coming through. This is cool. This is really cool. This is the SL70. Now, CL70, apologies. We're going to be talking more about that engine when we get to Switzerland, so stay tuned for that. S600, I like these a lot. The V8 Vantages from the 80s. These are expat cars. We've got one coupe and one Volante, painted in Rolls-Royce Royal Blue. 300 Adenauer, this is what I mean by the mix. 300 Adenauer, back a few generations, Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith, Bentley Continental GT convertible, pair of Bentley Brooklyns up top, XJR portfolio. I remember when my dad actually had an XJR of that derivative. VW Bug, we've got the luxury van, we've got the Maybach S600 there as well. But we need to come right here, because what I was saying about the Demon, this is the kit that every Demon is supplied with. Every Demon came with this box, with a jack, with different wheels and accessories, with everything that you could need. I'd never seen that before, but I love how collectible that makes the car. You certainly want to make sure if you ever purchase one that you get this with it. I mean, that's just part of the fun really about this thing. They only made it for a limited time. Obviously a number of derivatives that they've offered since, but that's just the icing on the cake to me. That's the absolute icing on the cake. Now, I also said I would explain this because I think a lot of people wouldn't know what this is. This actually takes us back probably 10 years now, I would say. This is an Abarth from approximately when they had the 595, before the 695 had been introduced. But this is the dealer's edition. So if you dropped your Ferrari off for service, each dealer would have one of these that you could then borrow in the meantime. They didn't actually put these for public sale. It has the same stripes as the 430 Scuderia, that type design, if you think about the timing, early 2010s. With the 595 engine and a manual gearbox. I really like it. They released the Tributo Ferrari afterwards, and a lot of people mistake the two. The Tributo Ferrari has the Abarth badge saying Tributo Ferrari. This does have the Ferrari center caps on the wheels, but super rare thing. I remember the first time I saw one, I actually got really excited about it. Love the quirkiness of that. A Ferrari Fiat, effectively. A bit like the Aston Martin Signet. Kind of weird, I guess, at the end of the day. But now we get to these two, and these two need a bit of attention, don't they? The Ferrari 812 Competizione and the Ferrari Monza SP2, the two latest hyper-limited edition Ferraris. The 812 Competizione in the Rosso Corsa with the Giallo Modena stripe and the black details. The Monza similarly with the stripe running the opposite direction, a heritage style livery. But two incredible cars, and have a look at this specification. Have a look at the interior. Immaculate delivery mileage example. The red with the yellow stitching, the yellow seat belts, the yellow driver's side buttress as well behind the headrest. This thing is just amazing. Now, I didn't touch on the Porsches. We've got to come through past the seating area to the Porsches. 992 GT3, 901.2 Speedster, sorry, limited to 1,948, 901.2 GT2 RS Weissach package. Again, all in red. I believe these must be Guards red, I would assume. The Lusso is actually a different shade of red. It's not Rosso Corsa, it's darker, and it looks really very, very smart. But do you know what? We've been covering the collection here in the Middle East, but before we pick one of these to look at more closely, I think we need to go to Switzerland. Welcome to the Swiss part of the global car collection, where we have an extraordinary lineup with a magnificent variety, all the way from the Mercedes like the Pagoda and even an SL73, which shares the engine of the Pagani Zonda, to a BMW 3 to CSL, a very rare Wiesmann MF5 GT, all set in front of this incredible view across the lake here just outside of Geneva, Plymouth Prowler, De Tomaso Pantera, Jensen Interceptor, you name it. We're going to have a full look through, but we will start just over here on the lawn with the lineup of luxury, we could say. The Rolls-Royces, Bentleys and the Maybachs, starting with the Rolls-Royce Cullinan by Mansory, the full conversion package in the distinct two-tone colourway, which is a theme you will start to spot as we head along this line. We have the Rolls-Royce Ghost in the matching colour scheme. Next we head to the Bentley Bentayga, Bentley's first SUV. This is actually one of the first additions that they made. Then we have a Mulsanne as well. We head away from the British side of luxury towards the German side with the Maybachs. And the GLS 600 from Maybach is the car that many of you will know because of the bouncing suspension, which actually helps it when you're driving off-road to get out of sand or difficult situations. We then have one of the original Maybachs, the 57S, but this was a limited edition they made with the silver across the shoulder line, keeping that dual tone colour scheme theme going. We then have the newer S650 Maybach with the V12, and then lastly, to complete the lineup here, we have the S650 convertible, again with a V12, one of only 300 cars that they actually made in total. Now we come over this way towards two Aston Martins. The first, the Vanquish S, famous of course as a Bond car, but also famous because the gearbox was not exactly the best, the paddle shift gearbox. Well, this one has a bit of a difference. Come and have a quick look inside here. It's actually had a manual conversion. There is a manual gear shifter inside this lovely Vanquish S. We're going to move on from here though towards the next car in the line, which is the Aston Martin Lagonda Taraf, a car that was originally made exclusively for the Middle Eastern market. I think they made just over 100 of them in total, based around the V12, lots of luxury and a bit of tradition and historical Lagonda brought into a more modern car as well. Very unusual thing to actually find. But we're going to come over this way because, talking unusual, this is what I love about this collection. The sheer mix of different cars, because this line starts with a little Citroën Ami, the French little electric car. Then we have another electric car, the Hyundai Ioniq 5. You might be wondering why, but that actually can't be bought in the country where it's been registered, so it's been around the world. We then have the BMW 1M, looking very nice in the Valencia orange, the Beetle convertible, a car I've always had a bit of a soft spot for, the Abarth 695 Rivale. There was the 500 Riva and the 695 Rivale. We have the Fiat 500 convertible and the Brabus Ultimate 125 in the very bright blue. Brabus only made a limited run of their full top spec versions of the little smarts. But let's come on through, looking at that view behind. It's just glorious, to show you a little bit more of what we have here on the Rolls-Royce and Bentley front. So to kick things off, just here we have the Rolls-Royce Camargue. Next to the Camargue we have the Silver Wraith 2. The Rolls-Royces continue as well. We have the Corniche 3, so the line of Rolls-Royces here, Corniche 3 followed by Corniche 4, all in beautiful condition. And I should state, all cars fully in running working order. We could hop in, fire any one of them up. Next to that we have the Continental T from Bentley. We have the Turbo RT in the white with the red leather interior, the Jaguar XJS. The variety here is what's really kind of whetting my appetite about this extraordinary display. We come to the Jensen Interceptor, again very rare, Corvette engine in there, Ford engine in the Pantera. Now this Pantera has just had a full restoration. It's one of the last cars which has the blended in wider fenders as opposed to the bolt-ons, but the American engine mixed with Italian design. The Plymouth Prowler, always a very quirky thing. Next comes the Wiesmann, and if you don't know too much about Wiesmann, effectively they took BMW engines and put them into a much smaller car. Big power, small package. I'm going to pop open the bonnet just here. 1 second, lean down here if I can find that. Because inside here, we find the M5's V8, in fact, tucked in there, which is, well, undoubtedly a pretty cool thing to be able to have in a tiny rear-driven sports car. Talking BMW, of course, though, we then head to the very iconic 3-litre CSL that we have just here, and a car that stands out to me. Now, the SL73, named 73 because of the 7.3-litre engine, in fact, we should open this as well, is super rare. It's unsure exactly how many they've made. It's in the ballpark of under 100 cars in total. Let me just find that, pull that open. Under 100 cars across the model, but obviously the engine, most famous in the more modern day for being the same power plant that you find in the Pagani Zonda. It is huge. In fact, it's the largest engine that Mercedes have ever put into a production car. And to put that in an SL, I think it just speaks for Mercedes at the time. They enjoyed doing things which are frankly absurd. We continue past the 450 SLC and then come down this way. Last two cars to complete the lineup just here. This is the Pagoda, the 280 SL, and lastly, the 300 SEC with the 6.3 as well. I mean, what a display of cars here. And that's the Swiss part of the global car collection. Welcome back to the Middle East. We could spend hours, if not days, going through all of the cars that are part of the GCC, the global car collection, but also GCC represents the Gulf Cooperation Council, some of the countries out here in the region. But there's one I'd like to show you in a little bit more detail. Before that, however, I mentioned something earlier that I haven't really properly explained at this point, which was the headlights from the 300 ZX. If you come over to the Diablo VT, when they changed from having the pop-up headlights to having the fixed lights, they effectively took those headlamp units, but put this little eyelid over the top to give them a slightly different appearance, but the same piece. And that's one of those funny things you see so often throughout the automotive industry with boutique manufacturers. The McLaren F1, for example, they had to borrow their lights from somewhere also. Now, the car in question that I want to show you, you might be able to guess a little bit if you know me quite well. A red Ferrari key that happens to start up an 812 Competizione. Now, I'd love to share a full feature piece at some point soon with the 812 Competizione to give you guys my full impressions, because you must know how much of a fan I am of the 812 Superfast and the GTS. But look at this car. Look at this thing. Over 800 horsepower of 6.5-litre naturally aspirated V12 glory. Come and take a look at the inside of this particular example as well. Inside here, look at this. The red and yellow details for the leather, the Alcantara. I just removed the seat covers as well. The Daytona seats here with the yellow stripe up the center, the yellow seat belts to match. It's a bold specification, but you know what? If you've purchased a one of 999 812 Competizione Coupe, I think you can get away with that. I think you can have the specification that you would like, and it makes it distinct to the collection as well. You have these vortex generators over the rear deck. There's a camera because it's this fixed panel as opposed to having any rear view mirror window to be able to see through. The ducktail that's part of the bodywork back here as well. And it happens to sound pretty awesome. So I think, given I've got the key and there's an 812 Competizione here at the Global Car Collection, we should probably get this started. Take a little listen. Let me very carefully seat myself in here, turn on the ignition. Let's have a cold start. Enjoy this. Oh yes, that noise is perfect. Now, I have driven an 812 Competizione, but the video, it's complicated. Hopefully there'll be an opportunity. This just sounds amazing. This car is amazing. Burbling, crackling, raspy, raw. There we go, cold start finishes, the exhaust valves open. Just 2,000 RPM. Okay, maybe that was 3,000. But anyway, you get the point. This is nice. Very, very, very nice. So there we have it. We have visited a collection across different continents. We've seen an amazing variety of cars at the Global Car Collection. And well, this might not even be all, but we visited the Swiss part, we visited the Gulf part, we've seen the American cars, the European cars, the German cars and Italian cars, the British cars, the Japanese cars, you name it. What a place. I'd like to say a huge thank you to the owner of this private collection for the opportunity to visit and to be able to share this with you. As I said, this has never been seen in the public eye before. This is a private venue, both parts of the collection, and it's been extraordinary. So again, a huge thanks, and of course, a huge thanks as well to you guys for your support. Thank you for watching. It is hugely appreciated. Without you, it would not be possible. That's it for this time. Thank you for joining me to discover the global car collection. I'll see you soon. Cheers.